Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Peter, and today I'll show you how to tune your FX Impact M3. I'll also be talking about gun harmonics and some of the things that will affect the harmonic signature of your gun. I've been asked so many times how I tune my gun and what my philosophy behind it is, so that's why I finally, I know I'm a bit late to the party, decided to make this video. This first part that I'll show you is actually also featured in my latest video where I talk about fixing spread issues on longer barrels. So if you've seen this before, you can always skip to here on the timeline and go directly to the part about gun harmonics. So with that said, let's dive into it and let me show you how to tune your FX Impact M3. The first thing you need before you start tuning your gun is to know what kind of velocity that you're aiming for. I've shot the 15 grains NSA before, and I know that they're performing pretty well at around 985 feet per second. So what I'll be doing is that I'll actually be tuning my gun to go like maybe 15 feet per second faster than that, so that I can turn down the hammer and make the gun a bit more harmonic. The gun is set up for the knockouts, and that means that I have the regulator at 110. I have the quick tune system at around, I can't see that without my glasses, but I think around 2.6, and the front valve is just past 4. So the first thing you want to do is to of course see what kind of velocity that you're shooting the new ammunition at. And before you start shooting, be sure to release the front valve. I would usually say that you should go like 1.5 turn beyond the fourth line, so to be sure that the valve is not reducing your velocity. Let's start up and see what kind of velocity we're getting at the setting that I had for my knockouts. I expect it to be quite low because it's a bit of an increase in weight of the ammunition. Insert your mag, get a new string, and I would imagine that it's around 900, and yeah, just around 900.
916.
It's around 916, so yeah, it's pretty obvious that we have to raise the pressure on the regulator. So I think I'll be pretty aggressive here at the beginning and raise the regulator from 110 and perhaps up to yeah, 125. Be sure always to remember that don't ever lower the pressure on your regulator when you have pressure on the system. It's going to destroy your regulator. Some might say that yeah, you can do it in a specific way without harming your piston in your regulator, but I followed all the instructions and I messed up my piston anyway. So just to save yourself the trouble, always degas your system before you turn the regulator pressure down. But since I'm going up, there's no fuss, but I just need to be sure that I'm turning it in the right direction. So let's see, I'm at about 120. Let's just check it out to see what kind of velocity we're getting at 120. Okay.
909.
Okay. Of course, we have to turn up the hammer. I give it 2 notches.
944.
944. I give it 2 clicks this time.
981.
981. Remembering that's at number 10. Let's see how high velocity we can get out of this reg pressure at 120.
988.
988. Let's give it another click.
997.
997. One more click.
1004.
Actually, that's enough of regulator, because I wouldn't need more than 1,000 feet per second to get the 985 feet per second, but a bit more than 20 feet per second above is no disaster. So let's see, we are at 14.
1009.
1009. One more click.
1009.
So you can see what's happening now is that the gun is settling in at 1,009 feet per second. So that's like the top velocity with the regulator pressure at it's showing 117, 118 right now. So actually, I could have done with a little less regulator when I'm aiming for 985 feet per second, but it's no disaster that the gun is shooting at almost 1,010, because by turning down, as I said before, the hammer spring, it gives a much more harmonic gun. So let's turn it down a bit and see if we can manage to reach 985.
$997.
997. One down.
990.
990. I think it's about there.
981.
981. Okay, let's take a few more shots and let the whole thing settle in.
986.
Okay, so what I'll do now is that I'll take a few shots. I know that I'm like in the area around 985. I'll take some shots and I'll see where it kind of settles down.
$988. 986. 990. 988.
Okay, I took 4 shots and I have an average of 988 feet per second. So I just want to lower it just a little bit, and because turning the hammer wheel here will make it jump, I don't know, 5 feet per second or something like that, I'll start to use the macro adjuster here, the quick tune system. So because it's 988 feet per second, I want to lower it just 3 feet per second. So I'll give it like 2 clicks.
$984. 988. 986.
Yeah, okay, that's about as close as I can get to the 985 feet per second. So what I'll be doing right now is that I'll be focusing on the front valve. And what you're doing when you're turning the front valve is that you decide when the valve is supposed to close, because if it's wide open, the valve will be open much longer than it needs to be, because you want the valve to close just as the slug is exiting out of the gun. So the way to find out is to, of course, put this back on 0, and then you take a few shots, and then you turn this valve in. I usually turn it in by an eighth of a turn between every 2 shots, and the moment that I see the velocity is dropping, that's when the valve is closing too early. So when I see the velocity dropping, I'll just turn it 1/8 of a turn back, and then I know I'll have the right timing for the valve closing. So I know that I'm around 985 feet per second right now. So I'll start testing and see when to close it. So I'll start by closing it by 1/8 of a turn.
984.
One more.
984.
Same. Turning it an eighth again.
986.
Turning it in again.
984.
I'll just close it a bit more. That's the end of the mag. Always have enough mags.
979.
Closing it again.
974.
So you can see now the velocity went down to 974, and it kind of lowered the velocity on the previous 2 turns that I did. So now what I'll do is that I'll open it a quarter of a turn, and hopefully I'll be back at around 984 again.
981.
81. The spring has to settle down. It doesn't give the right reading just after turning it. So
979.
one more.
984.
I'll just open it one more, and I think that's about
979.
Yeah, and I don't think that we'll get any closer to a lower spread than we are right now, because we have the 700mm liner in it. So now I'll take 5 shots, and I'll show you the spread and the standard deviation.
Nine 984. 990. 988. 984. 984.
Just a bit more.
988.
Okay, I have 6 shots here, and I'll just take a screenshot that I'll put up here. So as you can see, the average is 986. We were aiming for 985, so that's pretty good. We have a spread of 6 feet per second and a standard deviation of 2.4. Before we continue, there's a few things that I just want to address. One of them being the right velocity for the right ammunition. I've just shown you how to tune your gun for 985 feet per second, but for this particular gun with this particular ammunition, the right velocity might not only be 985 feet per second. It could also be performing well at, say, 940, 960, and maybe even past 1,000 feet per second. So if you're starting to shoot a new kind of ammunition, be sure to be curious and test it at a wide range of velocities. The next thing I want to address is why I never refer to the settings on my power wheel when I'm talking about my settings, and why you should never listen to people who address to their settings on their power wheel when they are talking about their settings. Let me show you why. As you can see here, my power wheel is at 7. And if you look at the quick tune system, it says about 2.7. And by turning it down to 1, you can see that the quick tune system is down to 2.1. And when I'm turning it all the way up to 16 like this, you can see that the quick tune system ends up at 3.7. So what this tells us is that the full range of the quick tune system is not available only by turning the power wheel. So if you want to access the higher or the lower part of the quick tune system, you have to turn this small adjuster like you see it here. So let's say I give it like 10 clicks. Now you can see that the reading on the quick tune system has changed, but the power wheel is still at 7. So now 7 is not the same as it was before I started to turn the quick adjuster. So keep that in mind when people are referring to the settings on their power wheel, because you don't know how much they have been turning their quick tune system. So 7 on their gun might not be the same as it is on your gun. When you fire a shot in your gun, it will vibrate, and so will your barrel. You've probably tried to shoot a bunch of shots in a row, and you can see that the holes in your targets has formed a circle. That's because when your barrel vibrates, it's not only going up and down, it's actually going in a circular motion. So the way to fix this is by tuning your gun correctly, so that when the ammunition is leaving the barrel, it's leaving the barrel when it's completely level. There are a bunch of other things that affects these vibrations, and that's what we'll be talking about next. The first thing I want to talk about in terms of gun harmonics is the barrel tuner from FX. The way to mount it is pretty simple. You just screw it on here at the end of the barrel, and then you take your silencer. It's a 1/2 inch UNF, so it's basically just plug and play. And the way that it works is that you have this piece here, this weight that you turn, and when you do this, the weight travels back and forth on the barrel and thereby affecting the harmonics on your barrel. I made a video about this like a year ago, and if you want to dig deeper into the subject on how to set it up and everything, I strongly advise you to go and check out that video. The barrel tuner comes in 2 different versions, this one and one that's fully integrated into a shroud. I much prefer this one because then I can easily take it on and off. The way that I recommend you using the barrel tuner is to start without it and then tune your gun to shoot as accurately as you can, and then afterwards installing the barrel tuner. And by turning this and doing these fine adjustments, you'll see that it does have an effect on the accuracy of your gun. So when people are asking me, why am I not using this myself when I'm speaking so fondly of it? Well, it's because I'm changing back and forth between so many different kinds of ammunition and barrels. So I don't really shoot the same setup for a very long time. So it's just very time consuming for me to do this setup with the barrel tuner every time. But if I was to shoot the group of my life, I wouldn't hesitate by installing the barrel tuner. The next thing I want to talk about is tightening down the screws of your gun. I heard just recently that some of the Olympic shooters are torquing down their screws all over the gun and then securing them with thread locker so they don't come out again. I must admit that I haven't gone so far, but the one screw that I really want to have the right torque is the jam nut that holds the liner. So to make sure that this has the right torque, I came up with an idea. I have a torque screwdriver here. It is a bit pricey, but it's very nice to have. And then I took a top like this. I don't know what it's called, but it's a 10 millimeter. It has 6 sides inside, so I had to saw it down so that it looks like this, so that it only has 2. Then I took one of these, and once again, I don't know what it's called, but I sawed off this part, so I have it here, and then I insert this into the torque screwdriver, and because this has 4 sides inside and this has 6, I just took a file and cut it down a bit so that it fits this one. So you can see now a perfectly good tool to tighten up the jam nut. I put it on 1.5 Newton meter. I don't know what that is in foot-pound, but by doing this, I'm sure that my jam nut is tightened exactly the same every time that I've taken it out. Seeing videos everywhere about how to change your liner and stuff, it doesn't really give you a clear impression on how much to tighten it up. So I think that many people have a tendency to torque it down too much and thereby damaging the liner. So to be sure that it is the same torque every time, I would really recommend you to get one of these. And then one thing that I feel that I need to mention is the barrel tensioner system. I did a video about it just recently in the 600 millimeter, and it did not have a good effect. I would also advise you to go and check out that video if you want to, but my conclusion of the barrel tensioner, at least in the 600 millimeter, was that it didn't have the effect that I was looking for. But in the description of the barrel tensioner system, it says that it should not be expected to have a great effect when you're shooting lighter slugs in shorter barrels. And actually the barrel tensioner system comes in original for the 700 millimeter liner. So by me cutting it down and using it for a lighter slug, which the 177 is, I would say that I could not expect it to have the effect that others might experience. I mean, if you're shooting like a heavy slug in a 700 or maybe an 800 millimeter liner, I would expect it to have a better effect than it had on the 600 millimeter liner. But stiffening up your barrel definitely has an effect on the harmonics. Whether it's something you should be looking into or you shouldn't, I will leave it entirely up to you. My experience is that in the 700 millimeter liner, shooting with GSB knockouts, it didn't have a positive effect. When talking about harmonics, we almost need to talk about different materials. If you have materials like, for instance, aluminium and carbon, there will be vibrations in a very different way in the two different materials. And carbon absorbs vibrations much better than, for instance, aluminium does. So that's why we see carbon in so many parts of our guns, or at least we want to see it in as many parts as we can. One place that I have made this change is actually my setup for the Crony. I've shown it quite a few times on my videos, but you can see here that I have a scope mount here, and I have a carbon fiber pole here, and then I just attached the Crony to this. And because I have the Saber Tactical Arca Swiss rail, I can just mount it out here. So this piece is reducing the vibrations of the gun, because every time you change something on your gun, it will change the harmonic signature of the gun. So this is just one of them, but everything else, if you change it, the harmonic signature of your gun will change. So when you change the bipod, when you change or if you attach a back rider, and if you have a different scope mount, that will affect your harmonic signature. So when you do these big changes, you should expect that it has some effect on your accuracy. Of course, there are some changes that are bigger than others, but all in all, every time you make a change, the harmonic signature of your gun will change. And one thing I just need to add here at the end is that when you're using your crony, some tend to hang it on the silencer out here, but that is like one of the worst things you can do in terms of accuracy. So if you have it attached directly to your barrel, it should only be to see the velocity that you're shooting at, because the moment you attach this to your barrel, your accuracy will go straight out the window. So this is actually a pretty good idea if you want to both have your accuracy and you want to maintain your... No, it's the other way around. If you want to maintain your accuracy and you want your velocity at the same time, this is a good idea. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of harmonics of your gun is how you handle it while shooting. There are many different ways of holding your gun and how to set it up. For instance, I usually set it up on a sandbag, but having seen the extreme bench rest and RMAC just recently, I can see that there are many ways of handling your gun while shooting. The first thing I want to address is how you grab the handle. I usually grab my handle with the thumb like this, because I like to have a firm grip on it. I've been experimenting with my thumb out here and hardly any contact with the grip. It was pretty good, but I just feel like I have better contact with the gun when I'm grabbing it like this. And the way you rest your cheek here at the cheek piece is also a factor, and it will affect the harmonics of your gun. So you can either rest your cheek like it was a rimfire, or you can just hover just slightly above here so you don't actually touch the gun. So which one is the right way to do it? There is no right and there is no wrong. Some might say that you have to do it this way or the other, but the thing is, if you do it the same way every time, your harmonics will be the same every time. So just keep that in mind, that there's no right and wrong, and you just have to do what feels the most comfortable for you. And that is the end of the video. I hope that you think that I've covered the whole thing about tuning and gun harmonics in a good way. And of course, if you have questions or you want to share your own experiences, be sure to drop them in the comment section below. I am also in a Facebook group called FX177 Owners, so if you have questions, you can also ask them there. It's turning into a pretty good group, and we have some very good debates going on there, so I would strongly advise you to apply for membership there. So with that said, that's the end of the video. Take care and shoot safe.